Hi, this is Carla at the Jackson County Public Library in Ripley, and we are celebrating Jurassic January. And today I would like to talk to you about fossils. First, I want to talk to you about what a fossil is and then how they're formed. Fossils are considered any physical trace of past life. They may be an organism's remains, such as microorganisms, plants, shells, teeth, bones, or they may be evidence of an organism's activity, such as footprints, burrows, and feces, also known as poop. The remains are considered fossils if they are 10,000 years old or older. And the oldest fossils on record, according to the Paleobotanical Research Group, are nearly 3.5 billion years old, and they're in the algae family. But the fossils of complex multicellular life started about 600 million years ago. And this bison bone is an example of a fossil that's about 10,000 years old. The trilobites I have here are probably the oldest ones I know a basic date on that I have, and they are 465 million years old and were found in Morocco. Okay, fossilization is a very rare event and requires an unlikely group of factors. It's impressive that we have any fossils at all because the conditions in which they're formed are so specific. Fossilization is a rare event that requires an unlikely group of factors. It's impressive, really, that we have any fossils at all because the conditions to which you need for fossilization to occur are so specific. The most favorable conditions for fossilization include the organism or plant or whatever, whatever it is, having hard parts such as a shell or bone and in a rapid burial, covered over by silt or mud or something. Plants can form fossils, but their individual parts are virtually never included because of the compression that gets squashed together. Now we have an example of a fossilized tree trunk right here. It's not the actual tree trunk, it's been replaced by other things, but you can see the imprint of it, the impression. It's more like a cast of the tree than the actual tree itself. A lot of times petrified wood is replaced with like an agate type material, a silica thing, minerals, and it looks really, really pretty. But this is replaced by, it looks like silt and slate, and I'm not sure what minerals replaced it, but you get the cast of this one. The plants that during the Jurassic were the conifers and the ginkgos and stuff like that, and they're the ones that, when they fossilized, laid down a lot of the coal. So coal is basically a fossilized forest. So what are the chances of any dead animal turning into a fossil? Well, it's like 1,000,000 to 1. You would probably have a better chance of winning the lottery than being turned into a fossil. And this was what makes it so amazing that we have any at all. And by far the most common fossil remains are those of the shelled invertebrate aquatic creatures such as snails, corals, and clams. And we have some of those here too, which I'll show you all these closer in a bit. We have some staghorn coral here, which is really cool. Fossils of terrestrial or land animals are much rarer than those of plants. And in order to become a fossil, an animal must die in a watery environment, like I said earlier, and become buried in mud and silt. And I have a little demonstration here to help give you a visual of that. So, we're going to pretend like this is a grassy plain, and this is the watering hole. And we have animals, dinosaurs, coming here to get them a drink. We have some triceratops. And they're all getting them a drink. And then You have an Allosaurus come in, and it lunges at one of the Triceratops, and everybody else scatters. They run away, but this guy is caught. And as he's trying to get away, he falls into this deep lake and is covered by silt. And then after thousands and thousands of years, his bones will be replaced by different minerals, and he will become a fossil. It's slowly sinking in. But anyway, that's basically what has to happen before you get a fossil. Get these guys out of the way. And because of this, most of the land animals never get a chance to become fossils unless they die next to a water source like a river or the ocean or a pond, lake, whatever. So there could be all kinds of different animal species that lived in the past that we have absolutely no idea about because we don't have fossils of them. So we just have to guess of what could have been around back then, which is kind of exciting and kind of fun. Now, fossils are created by two basic preservation methods. One is by either with alteration, where the bones or the shells of the animal were replaced by minerals, or without alteration. Fossils preserved with alteration is the most common. The original life form is partially or completely changed into a new material, like petrified wood, or the shells are not calcium anymore, they're replaced with other minerals. And the same way with the dinosaur bones and stuff like that. And the original, okay. Like a good example would be the petrified wood. And then there's the second method, which is preservation without alteration. This means that the state of the original organic matter remains unchanged. Examples are amber, which is, this is a piece of amber. It looks heavy, but it's incredibly light. It's almost like light like plastic. This is it can come in different colors. This is the dark, I think Baltic amber this one is. And then I have a more honey-colored piece of amber, and it also comes in like a green color, which I don't have any of those. But you can also see how it's flaking off on it's pretty brittle. And if you're lucky, you'll get a insect in one of those, which would be the coolest ever, but I don't have any of those. And the second form is by ice, which is, this was probably preserved in ice, the bison bone. I also have mammoth tusk, which we've all heard of, the frozen mammoths and stuff like that. These are pieces of the tusk of a mammoth. All these are. There's quite a few different. This one has the outside of what it would look like on the outside. It's all rough, and then the smooth inner side, you can see the striations of where it grew, like a tooth would. But anyway, these are all mammoth tusks, or pieces of mammoth tusks. And the third way is if they fall in like a natural tar pit. And there's places around the world that where natural tar will bubble up to the surface. And the most famous one in our area, or our country anyway, is the La Brea tar pits in California, which I would love to go see those. So now I'm going to turn the camera around and show you some of these fossils. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to go over some of the fossils that we have here for an example. I've already shown you the trilobites, but I want to give you a better look at them. These I bought at a rock and gem show, but I actually found one time, or half of one, in gravel in my driveway. So they are in some of the limestone deposits that gets crushed up and put in for your driveway and stuff like that. So it's always good to keep your eyes open. But these are the trilobites. We have a really nice example of some staghorn coral right through here. You can see them really well. And there's all kinds of them. So they've just sank to the bottom of the ocean and sediments went over top of them, and they've been preserved that way. It's really cool. That's a really nice one, but you can see the inside of it right there. And if you look close, there's some little shells in here too. And then there's a place outside of Cincinnati. It's a fossil park where you can go collect your own fossils. And these are some of the fossils from there. It's mostly shells and corals, but there's a really nice coral you can see right there. And then you get some little shells, and there's some shell impressions here, more corals. And you can see how there's like some silica and stuff in this one. You can do little shiny mica pieces. But this one's just loaded with different, there's a coral there and there, all through there. And then in the same place, this one has little corals, but also it's got a lot of shells. And you can see like some of the corals are cut into, and you get these little round like donut looking things. But you can see how it's just solid. This is like an entire shell right there. There's part of it. But there's the bottom half. And it's just a really cool place to visit, and you can take whatever you find, which is really cool. And this is another piece that came from there, and it has a lot of shells in this one, which I thought was really nice. And then I have the one little shell that I was going to try to get taken out of the matrix and see what it looks like. But it's a really pretty little piece. And then this is another rock with the shells in it that I was polishing up so you can see them better. Make it a little wet so you can see it. See how pretty they are? And then here's the ammonite we saw earlier. Just a close-up view of it. But you can see how the crystals form there because you've got like a little geode space in that one, which is really cool. But they're really pretty little shells. And then we also have the fossil coral, the Pulaski stones. A lot of these are found up in Michigan around Lake Superior and stuff. But you can see all the little corals in these, which I really like those. And now we're going to move on to the dinosaur stuff. Now I do have this one big piece of dinosaur bone, and you can look close and see all the little cells, or not cells, but the spaces in the bone where blood vessels and stuff would have been. And this is a hypsilopodont dinosaur. And then I have other little pieces, but you can see the porous nature of the bones. There's that one. That one. And this one's really, you can see the porousness of it right there on the inside, like where your bone marrow and stuff is. Which is pretty cool stuff. Like I think I will raffle off one of these. So if you like this video, call us at the library and we'll put your name and number down, and at the end of the month we'll draw for a dinosaur bone. And I also want to show you these because these are some of my favorites. These are very pretty little stones, especially this one, I think. But these three pieces are fossilized dinosaur poop, which I just think is amazing because it is so colorful and pretty. So there we go. I'm holding dino poop in my hand. If you want to come in, I'll have these at my desk. You guys can see those too. I'll keep a lot of this stuff here for you to look at through the end of the month if you want to come in, well, if we're open. If not, when we open back up, we will, you can come in and take a look at them. So that's all the dinosaur fossils I have for the moment. Like I said, there's the amber. You can see how crystalline and and really pretty it is. Ambers are really pretty, but it's incredibly lightweight. But this one I actually found on a beach in North Carolina, which was incredibly exciting for me. But it's basically amber is just fossilized pine sap or conifer sap. So there are those. Okay, now I want to talk to you a little bit more specifically about the Jurassic period. And we have some incredible books on dinosaurs that I also want to go over with you. There's some really cool ones, and they're all age groups. There's some that are like adult or like beginning readers. We have tons of dinosaur books, and they're really fascinating. Okay, the Jurassic is the middle period in the Mesozoic era. And the Mesozoic ranges from 251.9 million years ago to 66 million years ago. And that was the age of the dinosaurs, which is everybody's favorite time period. The dates for the Jurassic is from 201.3 million years ago to 145 million years ago. And the Jurassic followed the Triassic period and came in right before the Cretaceous period. During the Jurassic, I'm going to envision this, there were ammonites, which were these little guys, had little shells like that. There were oysters and crabs and lobsters, and modern fish appeared. The plesiosaurs and the marine crocodiles first appeared, joining ichthyosaurs, sharks and bony fish, cephalopods, and many other marine predators. The reef systems built on coral and sponge backbones flourished, providing homes for gastropods, and the remaining lower numbers of the declining members of the Paleozoic fauna, such as brachiopods and sea lilies. And this is a fossil, or is the fossil, the Pulaski stone, which is a coral, a fossil coral. Okay, reptiles, however, remained the dominant life form during the Jurassic, and some of the largest dinosaurs that ever lived during the Jurassic period. There was, I was in Cincinnati at the museum there of natural history, and they had a dinosaur exhibit, and they had a bone from the Argentinosaurus, which of course was found in Argentina, and it was huge. Just the forearm bone of this dinosaur was taller than I was. It was about a foot taller than me. Huge, about this big. It was just huge. It's amazing, and that was just one small part of it. Another main group of dinosaurs during this time period were the Ornithischians, which make their first appearance in the Jurassic period. The first birds to show up in the fossil record appeared in the Jurassic, but the flying pterosaurs were still ruling the skies, and some of them were huge. Theropod dinosaurs, which gave rise to birds, continued to evolve in parallel, and both groups were covered in feathers, which we've now discovered. Insects diversified during this time period, evolving many forms such as the wasps and beetles like we have today, and the first lizards show up, probably feeding on the insects. The plants, conifers were the dominant life form in the plants, and they, like I said earlier, were the coal-producing forests that we have, that we mine today. But the land was covered with conifers and ginkgos, and the understory plants, the shorter ones, were like big ferns and cycads and horsetail rushes. This was probably from that time period. The flowering plants, however, don't evolve, and the grasses don't evolve until later in the Cretaceous period. So the world back then looked entirely different from the world we have now, and I'm sure it was a really exciting and thrilling place. So now I'm going to go over some of the books and show you some of the pictures in them, and talk about some of the fossils that relate to them. And then I have a special guest here with me today that's going to show you about some of the types of feathers that possibly the dinosaurs had. Okay, now I want to show you some of the cool books we have here at the library. This one is called Super Dinosaur Encyclopedia, which is really cool. It's got some really cool pictures in it. I pulled out some of the ones. The Stegosaurus lived during the Jurassic period. This is one of the pterosaurs. This is a very small one. It probably only came up to a person's knee, which I'll give you the diagram right there. And then we have the Dakota raptor. We all know what the raptors are. But this one was bigger than a person. It's more like the Jurassic Park raptors, except if you notice how they've drawn it with feathers, they believe they had feathers. You had your feathers like we see on birds today, but you also had these other hairy like little feathers that were not quite what we have today in birds. Now this is another pterodon, and as you can see, it was bigger than a man, a full-grown adult. Triceratops. This is some really pretty pictures in this one. And then this one was probably the largest one I know of. It's the Quetzalcoatl. Huge, huge pterodon. It was probably 3 times the size of a man. It had a 36-foot wingspan, which is like unreal. Huge, huge pterodon. And this is one I wanted to show you because it's a picture of the Archaeopteryx fossil that I talked about earlier. This is the first one they found with impressions of feathers in the fossil record, which was really exciting at the time. But now we think a lot of them had feathers. There is a mosquito in amber, which is would be a pretty cool thing to have. We also have this book, A Field Guide to Dinosaurs, and it has a whole section on the Jurassic period. There's the Allosaurus. That was the main meat eater of the time. The Tyrannosaurus Rex did not appear until later. So he would not have been, or she would not have been around during the Jurassic. And you see they have this one, the Ornitholestes, and they have it drawn with those hairy like feathers, which I'll show you an example of that later. But anyway, this is another really cool book on dinosaurs that we have. And we have them in different age levels. Like I said earlier, the beginning reader ones. It's a really cool picture in here I thought was nice. That is of the ammonite, which is basically this. And then some of the fossil fishes. And we have one a little bit a higher reading level. And it's got some cool fossils in it too. That is a leaf impression, which is incredibly neat that we get the impressions of the leaves. And there's some of the shells like I showed you in the fossils we had earlier. And then there is a really good picture of petrified wood. Beautiful when you can find it. So if you ever get a chance to go out to the petrified forest out west, you should try that one too. And that's just a small sampling of the many different types of books we have. So just come in and check them out, or give us a call and we'll put them on hold for you. Okay, now I want to talk about the feathers. Okay, this is the kind of feathers we're used to today. You've got your main stem, and then the feathers come out in a nice, like, flat, even plane on both sides. And then you got a little bit of downy feathers down here. This helps our birds today fly. However, the dinosaurs had these, some of those hairy feathers, especially some of the earlier feathers. And I have a friend with me here today that I'm going to get and show you what those may have looked like. Okay, this is one of my silky chickens. This is a little rooster, and you can see he doesn't have feathers like most chickens or birds have at all. He's got these nice downy hairy-like feathers, even his little top knot. Now he does have some feathers, kind of like birds, on his wings. Here you can see a little bit right there. He's not real happy about this. And he's got a few in his tail, but most of his feathers are the downy, silky feathers, kind of like they think dinosaurs had. So, the next time you see a chicken, especially a silky, beware the tiny raptor. Thank you for watching the video on our Jurassic January series, and if you watched the video, please hit like and subscribe so that we can grow our channel. And I'm also going to give away one of the pieces of mammoth tusks and one of the dinosaur bones if you want to call in and register. We'll be drawing for that at the end of the month. Thank you.